I wouldn't say they've hit a dead end, but they just don't have any solid leads on the identification of the subject.
It appears as though he may be scoping things out, but it's more so he's like buying time. He's almost waiting until he knows where he wants to go and what he wants to do.
He's engaging in that pre-attack surveillance, that right before, making sure it's a soft target, making sure there's no law enforcement in sight, and just rehearsing his attack right before he goes in that building and commits it.
Breaking news now in the manhunt for the Brown University shooter, now in its 5th day. Providence police are now looking for a second person who was, quote, in the proximity of the person of interest. Wow, a lot we are learning minute by minute as this goes on. I'm Sandra Smith in New York. John, good to be with you.
Good to be with you as well, Sandra. I'm John Roberts in Washington, and this is America Reports. That headline comes as new video lays out a timeline of the potential shooter's movements in 15 different clips, up to 2 hours before and just minutes after the deadly mass shooting.
We have Fox Team coverage for you kicking off right now with Paul Mauro, who is on the ground digging into this new timeline.
But first to our national correspondent, Bryan Llenas. He leads us off in Providence with the latest. Brian?
John and Sandra, good afternoon. This news breaking within the last half hour. The Providence police releasing new images of a second person. Now, I want to be careful with how I use the language, so I'll read what they just posted on X. They said investigators are asking for the public's help in identifying and speaking to the individual shown in these photos who was in proximity of the person of interest. We have a press conference, that is a news conference, I should say, that is scheduled for 5 p.m. today. There'll be a lot of questions about that. Now, these new images come a day after the Providence police released new enhanced video of the primary person of interest we've been talking about, 5'8" with a stocky build, walking around the nearby neighborhood as early as 10:30 a.m., 5.5 hours before the shooting. They're hoping someone out there will recognize the way that he walks and carries his weight. Sometimes he's seen wearing a satchel, sometimes he's not. Investigators say the video released is the best video they have of this person. Now, back out here in front of the Barris and Holly building, I want to give people an idea of the timeline and sort of what we now know based on the FBI's information. Behind me is the north entrance, sort of the back entrance, loading dock, and parking lot. The FBI has focused a ton of energy on that entrance. We've seen people in Tyvek suits and cameras looking at that. It's believed, based on what we know, that the gunman, primary person of interest, the suspect, came out of that entrance or exit and started walking this way and passing this dumpster. Now, over the last few days, we've seen FBI agents in Tyvek suits inside of that dumpster. This is a school parking lot. Now, after he goes by this way, according to what the FBI timeline says, that person of interest is seen on a surveillance video 2 blocks away, and he crossing Hope Street. You can see him running through crossing Hope Street, which is behind that vehicle. I don't know if Dave can show that pole to the left of that car, but there is a surveillance video at 4:03 p.m. that shows the primary person of interest running past that pole across Hope Street to Waterman. The person of interest is seen for the last time at 4:06 p.m. going down Waterman Street. Now, it's really interesting to note here, the cameras have been a big issue in this investigation. Dave, if you just look around this parking lot to show everybody, there are no cameras that we can see out here, right outside of the Barris and Hawley building. You can see there are no cameras that we see visible to the eye. So that is something that has been a big sticking point in this investigation. The only camera, again, that catches this primary person of interest is down the block all the way over there, running out. So that is where we're at now with the investigation. John and Sandra.
All right, thanks. And we look forward to more updates as the hours and days progress. Bryan Llenas for us. Bryan, thank you. Sandra?
All right, let's bring in retired NYPD inspector and Fox News contributor Paul Mauro, who's also live on the scene there in Providence. So much I want to ask you about based on what we're now learning. First of all, the university and the local police there told students, staff, administration that there was no immediate threat on campus, that they should feel secure while also remaining vigilant. Now learning they're looking for a person of interest connected to the person of interest. I mean, are people safe that are still there?
I mean, it's very hard to say. Just let's remember that they sent everybody home. The school has told everybody that finals are canceled, school is over for the semester, and that's apparent here on the streets. They're relatively deserted. To be clear, the building that we're at, which is where the shooting occurred, is right on the edge. It's realistically the first aspect of Brown University that you hit when you walk out of the adjacent residential neighborhood. There's a neighborhood right here. It's very affluent, a lot of houses that are behind walls, well set back, which I think explains the paucity of private videos that they've been able to get from Ring cameras and the like. So whether or not they're safe, the police very clearly, they're trying to walk that fine line between creating an element of panic, but reassuring people that they're doing everything that they can and that people should go about their lives.
Paul, okay, so you mentioned students leaving campus. There's been some who have taken issue with that because obviously with the lack of cameras and video surveillance footage, many are wondering, are they letting some of the students go that could have been eyewitnesses that could help aid this investigation? Should there be further interviews or more interviews that haven't happened yet, Paul? Is there a risk to letting all these people go home?
Yeah, there is. You know, you're absolutely right. And we saw this, I know I've name-checked it before, but the public knows it, so I use it, the Koberger case. That happened, University of Idaho at Moscow. And same situation there. They canceled the rest of classes. The kids that were going to the school, they all dispersed. And as a result, when it came time to do some interviews, they had to actually rely on police all around the country to go knock on doors and ask, were you there and what did you see? I suspect there's going to be some of that here as well. And there's also the fact that, as I said, because this is adjacent to a residential neighborhood, during the weekend, in the immediate aftermath of the event, because it happened on a Saturday, a lot of these people were not home. Some of them might not still be home because they may be gone to Florida for the season or something like that. And that's why you're seeing video dribble in, because they're canvassing very hard, going further and further out, trying to get a hold of people that have either just returned or maybe even getting a hold of them wherever they are and saying, can you get somebody to let us in and access your Ring camera? Or they're going right to the source and saying, we need a consent from you because we're going to pull video from the video company.
I mean, you think that could happen faster than it is, but I don't know enough to be a critic of that. I also want to ask you about a discussion I just had with my colleagues downstairs on Outnumbered. Kayleigh Mackin and I were discussing, obviously, you know, there are going to be parents who are going to be very concerned about sending their kids to a university where we're learning there wasn't an abundant camera presence. We're learning to pull enough surveillance footage to catch this person this long after this crime happened. As far as armed security on campus, Kayleigh and I were wondering what you can tell us about that since you're on the ground there. Is the security on campus at Brown armed?
Brown has its own police force. Mm-hmm. They're an actual gun-carrying police force, the Brown University Police, and they actually responded. Ultimately, they were the ones who would be responsible for activating the sirens, etc. They have a chief of security as well. And I think, Sandra, and you know, not to use an unfortunate metaphor, but you're right over the target, because you gotta say to yourself, how is it that in a building that is not only at the edge of campus, which says to me you got to be very cognizant of people wandering in and out, not even shooters, just trespassers, people that are homeless or people looking to do a burglary. How is it that the outer salient of your campus, which is where one of the most busy classes that they have is held, how is it that the ingress and egress doesn't have a simple camera, the kind of Ring cameras that we're even talking about in a private home? Costs next to nothing in the course of a university budget. They don't have that. On a day that there were a number of things going on a Saturday during finals season, they apparently had either propped open the door or literally deactivated the card access during the day, and there was no security guard. So you really do have to question why it is that the building was so insecure and why we're not hearing more about that. Let's remember, a place like Brown drives the economy in this town. And I don't think it's any accident that there have been so many politicians at the lectern, and yet we're not hearing a whole lot from Brown Security.
I mean, where's the head of security protocol for the university to explain what the protocol was and what the protocol is? Final question. I mean, does it stump you that there's not just more eyewitness video footage? I mean, we were also just discussing you can't go anywhere now without, 20 cameras up and catching something, anything that is happening at any given moment anywhere. Why have we not seen any further video of what went down that day, that hour?
Well, like I said, you know, the school, he fled into the residential neighborhood from the edge of the school campus. So you can take the school off the table. And as I said, then you're down to the local residences. There are other things you can hope for here relative to video. A lot of car dash cams have video these days. Somebody might have got picked up. Hopefully they're looking at that and they're hoping people will come forward with something like that. But the fact that video is still, you know, sort of coming in, I think shows you they are pressing on that front. We got this new image of a person of interest. They're not couching that as a person that replaces the original one. They seem to be saying maybe somebody who knows something or somebody who might be involved. And there's some hopeful signs in that video. I only took a quick look. We just got it. But he's holding a bag. The original perp was holding a bag as well that then is not in some of the other videos. Where'd that bag go? This person also seems to be walking.
Sorry, Paul, you're generating so many more questions, I'm sure, for viewers at home. But the person of interest yelled something, correct? And we're still not told what that person yelled while carrying out the crimes?
Yeah, reportedly he did. And, you know, that's another question I have, because I'm wondering if this study hall was either live streamed or maybe some of the students in there were recording it. That would be common so that you could review your notes. I'm wondering if everybody in that room has been interviewed to say, did you record the session so that we can review what he yelled or if he did yell? So look, there are a lot of questions here. I'm sure they're pressing on all this. And all I would say, Sandra, as you and I talked about yesterday, I believe, remember the Koberger case. For 6 weeks, everybody said these guys don't know what they're doing. They're chasing their tails. And then when it all came out, everybody was quite impressed. So let's give them some time. When you don't get an immediate solve, that doesn't mean the case is over. And I still think they'll get there.
So it sounds like you're saying have faith in the process. You're on the ground. You're gathering information. You see the investigation at work. I guess my final question is, do students come back from the break if this guy's still on the loose?
I think they're going to have to. At the end of the day, the school's got to operate. I mean, obviously, that's a call that the university is going to have to make. But I would imagine you're going to see a significantly different security posture at this university going forward. And frankly, from where I sit, that's pretty long overdue.
Wow. Paul Mauro on the ground there in Providence, Rhode Island for us on that. So many questions. Paul, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.